Welcome to Chapter 6 from You Can Heal Your Life with Louisehay. I am in the rhythm and flow of ever-changing life. This chapter is called Resistance to Change. So awareness is the first step in healing or changing. When we have some pattern buried deep within us, we must become aware of it in order to heal the condition. Perhaps we begin to mention the condition, to complain about it, or to see it in other people, and it rises to the surface of our attention. Maybe in some other way, maybe we can begin to relate to it. We often attract a teacher, a friend, a class, a workshop, or maybe a book to ourselves that begins to awaken new ways to approach and dissolve the problem. My awakening began with a chance remark of a friend who had been told about a meeting. My friend didn't go, but something within me responded, and I went. That little meeting was the first step on my pathway of unfoldment. I didn't recognize the significance of it until some time later. Often, our reaction to this first stage is to think the approach is silly, or that it doesn't make sense. Perhaps it seems too easy or maybe unacceptable. We don't want to do it. Our resistance comes up very strong. We may even feel angry about the thought of doing it. Have you ever had that experience? I know I have. Such a reaction is very good if we can understand that it is the first step in our healing process. I tell people that any reaction they may feel is there to show them that they are already in the process of healing, even if the total healing is not yet complete. The truth is, the process begins the moment we begin to think about making a change. Impatience is only another form of resistance. So it's the resistance to learning and to changing. When we demand that something be done right now, completed at once, then we don't give ourselves time to learn the lesson involved with the problem we have created. If we want to move to another room, we have to actually get up and move step by step into the other room. Just sitting in our chair and demanding that we be in the other room, it's not going to work. It's the same thing. We all want our problems to be over with, but we don't want to do the small things that will help us to move towards the solution. Now is the time to acknowledge our responsibility in having created the situation or condition. I'm not talking about having guilt or about being the bad person for being where you're at. I'm saying to acknowledge the power within you that transforms our every thought into our experience. In the past, we unknowingly used this power to create things that we didn't want to experience. We were not aware of what we were doing. But now, by acknowledging our responsibility, we become aware and we learn to use this power consciously in positive ways for our benefit. So often when I suggest a solution to the client, a new way to approach a matter or even forgiving the person involved, I will see the jaw begin to clench, maybe the jaw, or jut out, maybe the arms cross tightly across the chest, maybe the fists start to form. This is resistance. It's coming to the forefront. And I know we have hit upon something that needs to be looked at. We all have lessons to learn. The things that are so difficult for us are only the lessons we have chosen for ourselves. If things are easy for us, then they're not lessons, but they are things we already know. So if you think of the hardest thing for you to do and how much you resist it, then you're looking at your greatest lesson at the moment. Surrendering, giving up that resistance, and allowing yourself to learn what you need to learn will make the next step even easier. Don't let your resistance stop you from making the changes. We can work on 2 levels. First level, looking at the resistance. And then the second is still making the mental changes. You can observe yourself, watch how you resist, and then go ahead and do it anyways. So here's some actions that we may find ourselves playing in as we feel that resistance come up, those limitations. So the first one she mentions is nonverbal cues. Our actions often show our resistance. For example, maybe we change the subject, leave the room, we go to the bathroom, we're constantly late, we're getting sick all the time, procrastinating by doing something else, maybe just doing busy work, or maybe we're procrastinating by wasting time. Looking away or looking out the window, flipping through a magazine, refusing to pay attention, eating, drinking, or smoking, creating or ending a relationship, creating breakdowns like in our cars or appliances and plumbing. So that's some of the actions that we might see that are nonverbal. We could also be making assumptions. So we often assume things about others to justify our resistance. So we might find ourselves making statements like, I wouldn't do any good anyways. My husband won't understand. My wife won't understand. I would have to change my whole personality. Only crazy people go to therapists. They couldn't help me with my problem. They couldn't handle my anger. My case is different. I don't want to bother them. It will work itself out. Nobody else does it. So those are some assumptions that you might find yourself playing in if you have a lot of resistance about something. Beliefs. We grow up with beliefs that become our resistance to changing. And some of our limiting beliefs or ideas could look like, well, it's not done, or it's just not right. It's not right for me to do that. That wouldn't be spiritual. Spiritual people don't get angry. Men just don't do that. Women just don't do that. My family never did that. Love, it's not for me. It's too far to drive. It's too much work. Ugh, it's too expensive. It will take too long. I don't believe in it. I'm not that kind of person. The next one she offers is, she calls it them. So we give our power to others and use that excuse as our resistance to changing. And so we might have ideas like, well, God doesn't approve. I'm waiting for the stars to say it's okay. This isn't the right environment. They won't let me change. I don't have the right teacher. I don't have the right book. I don't have the right class. I don't have the right tools. My doctor doesn't want me to. I can't get time off work. I don't want to be under their spell. It's all their fault. They have to change first. You just don't understand, or they don't understand. Or as soon as I get blank, I'll do it. I don't want to hurt them. It's against my upbringing. It's against my religion. It's against my philosophy. So yeah, pay attention to what are some of the things that you might be saying. Self-concept. Well, we all have ideas about ourselves, right? And we can use those ideas about ourselves as limitations or resistance to changing. And they might look like this. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too fat. I'm too thin. I'm too short. I'm too tall. I'm too lazy. I'm too strong. I'm too weak. I'm too dumb. I'm too smart. I'm too poor. I'm too worthless. I'm too frivolous. I'm too serious. I'm too stuck. Maybe it's all just too much. Maybe I'm too much, right? Delaying tactics. Our resistance often expresses itself as delaying tactics. Now, we might use excuses as part of our resistance. So, I'll do it later. Or, I can't think of anything right now. I don't have the time right now. It would take too much time away from my work. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll do some of it. I'll do it some other time. I have too many other things to do. I'll think about that tomorrow. As soon as I get through with right? As soon as I get back from this trip, the time isn't right. It's too late, or it's too soon. Now, I just want to say something that, she's offering these things as you may find yourself saying these things and they actually are true. Maybe you've got too much on your plate and you're, planning, you're making room in your schedule for certain things. But if you find that, you're noticing some resistance and you find yourself saying, you're saying, I really want to move, but it's just not the right time. Or it's too hard to do, and you're making excuses, you're delaying, I'll do it later, or I can't think about it right now. That would be something to become aware of. That would be something to see and notice. And as she mentions on the previous page, if we can bring awareness to it, we look at the resistance and still make the mental changes. Observe yourself, watch how you resist, and then go ahead anyways. That's how these can be helpful to know and be aware of. Another is denial. So this form of resistance shows up in denial of the need to do anything, to make any change, right? Things like, there is nothing wrong with me, or I can't do anything about this problem. I was all right last time. What good would it do to change? If I ignore it, maybe the problem will go away. And the last one is fear. By far the biggest category of resistance is fear. Fear of the unknown. So listen to some of these examples and see if you find yourself playing in some of these. I'm not ready yet. I might fail. They might reject me. What would the neighbors think? I'm afraid to tell my husband. I'm afraid to tell my wife. I might get hurt. I may have to change. It might cost me money. I would rather die first. I don't want anyone to know I have a problem. I'm afraid to express my feelings. I don't want to talk about it. I don't have the energy. Who knows where I might end up? I may lose my freedom. It's too hard to do. I don't have enough money now. I might hurt my back. It wouldn't be perfect. I might lose my friends. I don't trust anyone. It might hurt my image. I'm not good enough. And on and on and on it goes. I play in fear a lot. That's for me personally. So if you recognize some of these as the ways that you resist, look for the resistance in the examples. So a client came to me because she was in a lot of pain. She had broken her back, her neck, and her knee in 3 separate auto accidents. Yet she was late. She got lost and then she was stuck in traffic. It was easy for her to tell me all her problems, but the minute I said, "Let me talk for a moment," all sorts of turmoil began. Her contact lenses began to bother her. She wanted to sit in another chair. She had to go to the bathroom. Then her lenses had to come out. I could not keep her attention for the rest of the session. It was all resistance. She wasn't ready to let go and be healed. I discovered her sister had also broken her back twice, and so had her mother. Another client was an actor, a mime, a street performer, and quite good at it. He bragged about how clever he was at cheating others, especially institutions. He knew how to get away with almost anything, and yet he got away with nothing. He was always broke, at least a month behind in rent, often without a telephone. His clothes were tacky, work was very sporadic, and he had lots of pains in his body, and his love life was zilch. His theory was that if he couldn't stop cheating until some good came into his life. Of course, with what he was giving out, no good would come into his life. He had to stop cheating first. His resistance was that he was not ready to let go of the old ways. So too often, instead of working on our own changes, we decide which of our friends needs to change. This too is resistance. In the early days of my work, I had a client who would send me all her friends. Instead of sending them flowers, she would have me go to fix up their problems. I would arrive with my tape recorder in hand, usually finding someone in bed who didn't know why I was there or understand what I was doing. This was before I learned never to work with anyone unless he or she had requested it. Sometimes clients came to me because a friend had given them a session as a present. This usually didn't go very well, and they seldom came back for further work. When something works well for us, we often want to share it with others. That's true. But they may not be ready to make a change at that point in their life. It's hard enough to make changes when we want to. But to try and make someone else change when he or she doesn't want to, that's really impossible, right? And it can really ruin a good friendship. I push my clients because they come to me. I leave my friends alone. Mirror work. Mirrors reflect back to us our feelings about ourselves. They show us clearly the areas to be changed if we want to have a joyous and fulfilling life. I ask people to look in their eyes and say something positive about themselves every time they pass a mirror. The most powerful way to do affirmations is to look in a mirror and say it aloud. You are immediately aware of the resistance and you can move through it quickly. It's good to have a mirror with you as you read this book. Use it as often as you can for affirmations and to check where you are resisting and where you're open and flowing. Now, look in a mirror and say to yourself, I am willing to change. Notice how you feel. If you're hesitant or resistant or just don't want to change, ask yourself why. What old belief are you holding on to? This is not a time to scold yourself. Just notice what is going on and what belief rises to the surface. That is the one that has been causing you a lot of trouble. Can you recognize where it came from? When we do our affirmations, they don't feel right or nothing seems to happen. It's so easy to say, oh, affirmations, they don't work. It's not the affirmations that aren't working. It's that we need to do another step before we begin affirmations. For every habit we have, for every experience we go through over and over, for every pattern we repeat, there is a need within us for it. There is a need within us to actually do it. The need corresponds to some belief we have. If there were not a need, we wouldn't have it. We wouldn't do it, or we wouldn't be it. I just want to say that again because I kind of stumbled on my words. The need corresponds to some belief we have. If there were not a need, we wouldn't have it. If there were not a need, we wouldn't do it. If there were not a need, we wouldn't be it. There is something within us that needs the fat, the poor relationships, the failures, the cigarettes, the anger, the poverty, the abuse, or whatever there is that's a problem for us. How many times have we said, I won't ever do that again? And then before the day's up, we have the piece of cake. We smoke the cigarette. We say the hateful things to the ones we love, and so on and so on. Then we compound the whole problem by angrily saying to ourselves, oh, you have no willpower, you have no discipline, you're just weak. The only thing that does is adds a load of guilt to something we're already carrying. So whatever we are trying to release in our lives is just a symptom, an outer effect. Trying to eliminate the symptom without working on dissolving the cause, it's useless. The moment we release our willpower or discipline, the symptom crops up again. So, willingness to release the need. Louise says, I say to clients, there must be a need in you for this condition or you wouldn't have it. Let's go back a step and work on the willingness to release the need. When the need is gone, you will have no desire for the cigarette or the overeating or the negative pattern. One of the first affirmations to use is, I am willing to release the need for the resistance. or the headache, or the constipation, or the excess weight, or the lack of money, or, right? Fill in the blank there for you. You could say, I am willing to release the need for, and whatever it is that's coming up for you. If you are resisting at this point, then your other affirmations cannot work. The webs that we create around ourselves need to be unwound. If you have ever untangled a ball of string, you know that yanking and pulling only makes it worse. You need to be very gently and patiently unraveling the knots. Be gentle and patient with yourself as you untangle your own mental knots. Get help if you need it, but above all, love yourself in the process. The willingness to let go of the old is the key. That is the secret. When I say needing the problem, I mean that according to our particular set of thought patterns, we need to have certain outer effects or experiences. Every outer effect is the natural expression of an inner thought pattern. To battle only the outer effect or symptom is wasted energy and often increases the problem. So I am unworthy creates procrastination. If one of my inner belief systems or thought patterns is I am unworthy, then one of my outer effects will probably be procrastination. After all, procrastination is one way to keep us from getting to where we want to go. Most people who procrastinate will spend a lot of time and energy berating themselves for procrastinating, and they will call themselves lazy and generally will make themselves out to feel like they are the bad person. Resentment of another is good. I had a client who loved attention and usually came to class late so he could create a stir. He had been the baby of 18 children and he came last on the list of getting. As a child, he watched everyone else have while he just longed for his own. Even now, when someone had good fortune, he would not rejoice with them. Instead, he would say, "Oh, I wish I had that." Or, "Oh, why don't I ever get that?" His resentment of their good was a barrier for his own growth and change. Self-worth opens many doors. A client who was 79 came to me. She taught singing and several of her students were making television commercials. She wanted to do this too, but was afraid. I supported her totally and explained, there is nobody like you. Just be yourself. Do it for the fun of it. There are people out there looking for exactly what you have to offer. Let them know you exist. She called several agents and casting directors and said, I'm a senior citizen, and I want to do commercials. In a short time, she had a commercial, and since then, she's never stopped. I often see her on television and in magazines. New careers can start at any time, especially when you do it for the fun of it. Self-criticizing is totally missing the mark. It will only intensify the procrastination and laziness. The place to put the mental energy is into releasing the old and creating a new thought pattern. You could say, I am willing to release the need to be unworthy. I am worthy of the very best in life, and I now lovingly allow myself to accept it. As I spend a few days doing this affirmation over and over, my outer effect pattern of procrastination will automatically begin to fade. As I internally create a new pattern of self-worth, then I no longer have the need to delay my good. Do you see how this could apply to some of the negative patterns or outer effects in your own life? Let's stop wasting time and energy putting ourselves down for something that we can't help doing if we have certain inner beliefs. We need to change the belief. No matter how you approach it or what subject we are talking about, we are only dealing with thoughts, and thoughts can be changed. Hallelujah, they can be changed, people. When we want to change a condition, we need to say so. I'm willing to release the pattern within me that is creating this condition. You can say this to yourself over and over. Every time you think of your illness or your problem, the minute you say it, you're stepping out of that victim class. You are no longer helpless. You are acknowledging your own power. You are saying, I am beginning to understand that I created this, and I now take back my power. I'm going to release this old idea and let it go. Self-criticism. I have a client who will eat a pound of butter and everything else she can get a hold of when she cannot bear to be with her own negative thoughts. Next day, she will be angry at her body for being heavy. When she was a little girl, she would walk around the family dinner table, finishing off everyone's leftovers and eating a whole stick of butter. The family would laugh and think it was cute. It was almost the only approval she ever got from her family. When you scold yourself, you berate yourself. When you beat yourself up, who do you think you're treating this way? Almost all of our programming, both negative and positive, was accepted by us by the time we were 3. Our experiences since then are based upon what we accepted and believed about ourselves and about life at this time. The way we were treated when we were very little is usually the way we treat ourselves now. The person you are scolding is a 3-year-old child within you. If you are a person who gets angry at yourself for being afraid and fearful, think of yourself as being 3 years old. If you had a little 3-year-old child in front of you who was afraid, what would you do? Would you be angry at them? Or would you reach your arms out and comfort that little child until he or she felt safe and at ease? The adults around you when you were a child may not have known how to comfort you at that time, but now you are the adult. And if you're not comforting the child within you, then that is a very sad thing indeed. What was done in the past is done, right? It's over, but this is present. And you have the opportunity to treat yourself the way you wish to be treated. A frightened child needs comforting, not scolding. Scolding yourself only makes you more frightened, and there is nowhere to turn. When the child within feels unsafe, it creates a lot of trouble. Remember how it felt to be belittled when you were young. Do you remember that? It feels the same way now to that child within us. So most importantly, be kind to yourself. Begin to love and approve of yourself. That's what the little child within needs in order to express itself at its highest potential. So wrapping with a prayer. In the infinity of life where I am, all is perfect, whole, and complete. I see any resistance patterns within me only as something else to release. They have no power over me. I am the power in my world. I flow with the changes taking place in my life as best I can. I approve of myself and the way I am changing. I am doing the best I can. Each day gets easier. I rejoice that I am in the rhythm and flow of my ever-changing life. Today is a wonderful day. I choose to make it so. All is well in my world. Blessings. We'll see you for chapter 7.